I'm going to show you Sanity from the perspective of a Webflow user. This means going from the starting point to what are the differences between the editing experience, some general basics of mapping your mental model that you know from Webflow into Sanity. Maybe we'll talk a bit about migrations and how things work under the hood, how your workflow in general will be different if you choose to try Sanity. And I have a starter template here that is an official Sanity and Astro. And then I also started a Webflow project with just a simple blog on it. So when you start a Webflow project, you obviously have a lot of these things set up for you. So for example, in this template, I even have a blog feature with the blog page and everything connected. And you can very easily create and watch your CMS items. With Sanity, it is a bit more time consuming. So first you're gonna copy this command over here. And before we go straight into this, I'm gonna go to Sanity, and I would recommend that you create an account and a project before you start. It's just gonna make things a little bit easier in my opinion. So I just created a demo here, and then we can create a project. I'll call it demo. We'll create this. And once it's done, you will be greeted by this page where it tells you, it gives you instructions for your agent or for you. We're going to skip this because we're going to be using a starter template. So we can go back to our terminal, make sure you're in the correct folder. And then I'm just going to paste that command from before. And the first question it asks you is which project. So we already have one. We can click here and we can select the production. And then you can choose to enable any of these if you want. I don't really need any of them right now. And yeah, demo is fine. And then yes, we want TypeScript. And then in just about a minute, it's going to create the project and add all the files we need. It will create your visual editing setup and everything. So it gives you a pretty good starting point. It's not what I typically use. I have my own kind of internal templates for it. But it is a decent starting point to show the demo here. So it is set up, and now what we can do is write cd demo. cd stands for change directory, and we will go to that project, and then you can run npm run dev. Once these run, you will see that there are two servers running, one on localhost 3333 and one on 4321. We want to go to the 3333, which is Sanity. So these are two separate projects. One of them is the front end, one of them is Sanity. And once you log in to the Sanity Studio, you will be greeted by a pretty bare bones setup. And obviously the point of this is that you can edit it and manage it and just customize it to your liking. So we have posts here, which is just empty. And then up here in presentation, if you go there, it will take a moment, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to work by default, but let's wait. Yeah. So the reason it doesn't work by default is because we need to go over here. I'm just going to create a new tab. And if you have VS Code installed and you write code dot, you can open this project. And if you go to frontend.env, these are your environment variables. You will see that it already set up your project ID and a token, an API token over there. But this Sanity visual editing is set to false. We're just going to set it to true. And we go back to our browser and reload. I think we actually need to restart the server. So I'm just going to Control C stops the servers, and then npm run dev again, runs them again. Okay, there we go. So whenever we change environment variables, we need to just restart the server. And now we have this open, and clicking around doesn't do anything yet. The reason for that is that we don't have any posts. And this might look weird to you because in Webflow, when you don't have any CMS items, you can still control the visual editing of the project, but Sanity doesn't work that way out of the box. I did see just before I recorded this video that Timothy Ricks put out a no-code builder for Astro that could work better for your use case. But normally you would go to your code, front end, source, and then pages. And if we go to index over here, you will see that there is a section, And in this section, it checks if there are any posts. And if there are, it creates a list of cards. Otherwise, it shows you the welcome component. So you know components from Webflow. We are just using components here, but with JavaScript built in, you can create a lot more customized behaviors and layouts without having to do hacks to hide and show stuff. So if we go back to Sanity, we go to structure again, post, and we create a post. And SEO, we're not gonna bother with these right now, but we'll publish this. And there's this small feature here where you can see, click here and go to that page. So we can click here, it takes us directly there. And this is the blog post that we just published. And we have visual editing now. So we can click on the image, it takes us to that image. We can click on the heading, all these different things. And then we can also go back to the homepage and we'll see that this time we do have the blog post. And now you can click here and you can edit it, but that's as far as it will go by default for you. So you would have to be prepared that there is a lot more customization and work that needs to be done in order to make changes. But also once it's set up, I believe it's faster than Webflow, and you get the benefits of controlling what's actually going on under the hood, which is my next point. So if you're on Webflow, you get the designer for building, and you have the editor, and you have the roles, and the visual editing, the CMS editing, everything is set up by default, and it's just one platform where it has anything. Where if you're using Sanity, you have to use a frontend like Astro or any of the other existing options, and you have to handle the visual building either with AI and something like Ship Studio maybe, or the tool that Timothy Riggs just put out, or just handle it yourself. And it is a bit trickier than just having Webflow with all the controls and the granular editing that you can do there. However, this means that you know exactly what is going to your site. So for example, in Webflow, you cannot get rid of jQuery or any of the JavaScript that it injects in order to handle your any carousels or drop downs or any of the native Webflow components. Even if you're not using them, it just loads them. So you have this kind of control with Astro, which is why you see so many people posting really high performance scores from Lighthouse with Astro, because by default it ships 0 JavaScript. Everything runs whenever you're creating the project, and all that JavaScript just creates the HTML files for your project. When it comes to hosting with Webflow, you're stuck with their hosting, which, if I'm not mistaken, is just Cloudflare and whatever their other infrastructure is. And if anything goes down, you have to kind of wait for Webflow to come back, and we've seen these kind of outages before. With Sanity, you can deploy your website anywhere, and this means that maybe if you have your site on Vercel and for whatever reason Vercel goes down, you can very easily port it over to like Cloudflare or Netlify or other platforms pretty easily in like a few minutes, maybe an hour max, because most of the code is not tied to a specific platform. And this isn't just about the website, but also the studio. So by studio, I mean Sanity Studio, of course. So you can deploy it on a Sanity hosted version. So you can run Sanity deploy, and it gives you a URL that is hosted on Sanity, but you can also just host it yourself on your own domain, which is pretty cool by itself, just having the studio on your own domain instead of on Webflow. And to be honest, the plans on these platforms is much more generous than what Webflow provides. I personally like using Vercel because the experience that they have on their interface, the user experience, the developer experience they have is, I think, not even close to anything else. Not just for you, but even if you're gonna invite your clients to the Vercel dashboard, it is very user-friendly and very easy to navigate and get through. And in general, their infrastructure is pretty reliable, I would say. And like I said, if anything goes wrong, you can very easily just go to a different provider. When it comes to version control, Webflow has backups, and if you're on enterprise, you have the branches. And if you're working with Sanity, you're working with code, so you have Git. Git is a version control system, and you basically commit changes every time you want to make changes. And whenever you want, you can roll back to a commit that you've made. Not only that, but you can also create as many branches as you want. And if you are on something like Cloudflare or Vercel, or pretty much I think most of the big providers right now, you will get staging environments for each branch that you create by default. So they automatically create a staging environment for you where you can preview your branches before merging them into the main branch. A lot of people also ask me about migration, and I think that might deserve a video for itself because it's not as easy as it looks. But if you're gonna use AI, you can basically get the export from Webflow for your CMS and give it to your agent and tell it to convert it into Sanity schema and then upload them there. It will most likely create a script that will help upload them to Sanity. And then for the pages themselves, you could hand it the page itself, maybe the published page, and tell it to take like kind of the section by section and create these sections as blocks in Sanity. So sections or components can be blocks in Sanity, and then you can like change the content of it and move them around and all of that. Just know that Sanity doesn't have the concept of pages and components by itself. They're just generic documents and objects that you define what they are and what they do. For the client experience, your client will be spending most of their time either in presentation or structure, because some data just doesn't show up visually on the site itself. And this is where you create the client experience. You can put dividers, folders, you can put custom UI here. For example, this is a template that I'm building using Svelte. We have the site settings, which is not what you would see in Webflow site settings. It's a more general one. It includes the nav bar, it has the footer, it has some brand elements, as the default SEO. If any page doesn't have these set, they will inherit them from the default one. You can hide from search engines, you can add your redirects, you can set a password, all of that. You can create folders and pages, and everything updates whenever you update one of them. And in visual editing, I added some custom UI. So if you noticed on the base template for Sanity there, you have to kind of either navigate to pages by clicking, or you have to put the URL here. I've created this custom dropdown with all the pages and the dynamic CMS items, I guess you would say. I mean, everything is a CMS item in Sanity. For example, here in the About page, I can drag these sections around and edit specific elements on here. But I didn't go too deep into any of these parts because I think this deserves a series where we migrate a page, or a site rather, from Webflow into Sanity and just go into each part and how it all flows into each other. If there's anything I missed here or you would like more information on, just leave me a comment below and I will see you in the next one.